Hey, oh, here we go. Matt's in the club. He's not in an office. Good. Okay. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. As you can see, Matt is on tour. Welcome to our latest LinkedIn Live today with Mafalda and Matthew. Today, and our LinkedIn Live, sponsored by Comstore, we're going to be talking about why sales hiring fails, but how to fix it. That's the most important thing. We're going to give you, at the end of this session, some great actionable things that you can do in your organization to make sure that those hiring mistakes of the past are of the past. My name's Dave Wilkins. It'd be great to know where everybody's dialing in from, because I think we've got people from all over the world here today. So just put a little comment about what city you're in. And why don't we start off and kick it off by Mafalda introducing yourself, letting people know who you are.
Hello. Nice to be here once again with both of you. That's now part of my routine now. I love it. So yeah, my name is Mafalda. I'm Portuguese living in Germany. And recently I joined also community. So we can say we are now partners, Dave, officially, because you are SDRs leaders of EMEA and I'm SDRs of Germany. So yeah, it's a sales community for the German-speaking salespeople in the DACH region, so Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. So yeah, we help the community. We help salespeople find jobs. We help sales hiring people hire the right candidates. So that's what we do. So I think the topic today has everything to do with now my day-to-day job at the SDRs of Germany.
Oh, wow.
Introduce yourself. Sorry, my mute button's not working. Go on, Matthew.
No, you're all good. Hi, everyone. I'm Matt Putnam, ex-director of sales development. So this topic and space is very close to my heart. Currently head of growth at Prospeo, and I also run a sales training platform with about 3,000 SDRs. So this is a topic that comes up time and time again. So I'm looking forward to digesting this with you both.
Brilliant. So as with all of our LinkedIn Lives, if you have questions, they're going to be coming in on our feed so we can see it live. Please ask questions, and as we go through, we'll make sure that those all get answered. So let's start off with a nice, easy question. Mafalda, why does SDR hiring fail?
Oh my God. Do I have 3 hours or? So yeah, there are a lot of reasons why it fails, and I think we're gonna unfold that throughout the next half an hour. But I would say that it fails because it fails during the job description expectations, so the beginning of the funnel of the hiring. It fails while screening the CVs. It fails during the interviews, and then it fails after while onboarding. So I think that, like in a sales funnel, we also have the hiring funnel, and then there are a lot of little things we need to fix throughout the same funnel. And I want to like go deeper, because that's what we're going to talk about throughout the session today. But so it's not one mistake or one challenge. There are many of them throughout the process.
Matthew, anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think a lot of the time it comes down to, expectation setting between who you're looking to hire, and a lot of the time people are looking to get way more out of the people they're willing to pay for. So very much in line with what Mafalda's saying. So I think it's a case of readjusting expectations, making sure your process is really strict, and we'll dive into that today. But it really comes down to what you're expecting out of the people you're looking to hire. You've got to make it fair to them, otherwise it's going to fail one way or another.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, in that case, for example, like make sure that what the requirements are for your the job that you are advertising are really necessary and they are accurate, right? So you cannot have a junior position with 3 years of experience. That's not a junior position, and
that's classic, isn't it?
Yeah, and therefore the person who is applying also doesn't want to get this junior salary, right? So then suddenly you say, oh, there is no talent out there. Like there is, but someone who has been working a lot for the last 3-4 years in sales and delivering doesn't want to get a junior title, neither a junior salary. So that's just a one quick example of make sure that your job description aligns with what's going on out there, of salary wise, conditions wise, like tasks wise. So make sure there is not a mismatch between your expectations, the market, and the candidate.
Is there, Mafalda, is there anything especially around about these expectations not being set properly around the hiring manager maybe not wanting to make the candidates feel uncomfortable in interviews?
I would say that it starts even before that. So even before the interviews, right? So if you set the right job advertisement, you're more likely to get the right candidates. So then interviews will be better. And also regarding that, many times what I see is, and that's a bit on the onboarding part, many times companies, they only have budget for a junior. They only need a junior, but they don't have an onboarding. They don't have anyone to train them. So they want to hire someone with the experience just to make sure that they don't have to train them. And that's one of the reasons why this mismatch happens. And this is really bad for two reasons. First, you need to train your employees, whether they have 0 or 20 years of experience, because each company is different. And second, you cannot you cannot compensate one with the other, right? So you can say, okay, I don't have any onboarding or no proper training, let me get someone with experience with a junior salary, and then you have a person with no training, no proper salary. The likelihood of you have made a bad hire is huge.
Matthew, maybe we talk more around biases and unconscious biases. Is that something that you see a lot with hiring as well?
Hugely. I think there's a couple, and I know Mafalda's also got a bias that we were discussing about in the previous call. But one of the most common ones I see is like you always like to hire people that are similar to yourself. You feel more comfortable with them, especially if you're a leader and you're growing a team for the first time. Get people around you that you're comfortable with. Doesn't always mean it's the right people to hire, especially if you're an SDR leader who isn't getting on the phones. So there's that whole thing. Do you get on the phones with them or not? So, I think it's really natural for us to hire people that are similar to ourselves. And actually, we need to be hiring people that have got different skill sets that complement the SDR role. Like I've had SDRs who are incredible at just picking up the phone on repeat, and they will do the volume numbers game. And there are others who will put all the prep work into a call and, they can get away with doing 30 calls in a day. The middle ground between the both is the perfect scenario, and you're never going to get that middle ground unless you have those two different personas in place. Also, the people that are incredible at writing and understanding and have the empathy of understanding an ICP. Like if you don't have them in your team and you've got a team with a junior skill set, and if you don't have that skill set, which not all sales SDR leaders have, right? It can be a huge challenge. So you want to be hiring people that understand things that maybe you don't understand, which we've got to put our ego aside.
Yeah.
Be like, wow, that's going to complement the team. Let's get you on.
I think put ego aside is super important when you hire. Also, I've seen a lot that managers, especially what you're mentioning, junior ones that are maybe not feel so safe or confident in the role. Many times they don't hire people that they might find threatening, that are like sound a bit better than what they were. And many times you don't hire great talent because you feel threatened by it or because of your ego. And that's definitely something you should be doing. And sometimes it's even unconscious. That's why we call it unconscious bias. We all have that. But what we are saying here is if you know them all, you can also check on yourself. Is it me being, objective, or am I being influenced by it? I'm always checking on myself. And there are others like Matthew said, but you have, for example, ageism is something that nowadays is a big problem. People who are a bit older, you don't hire them, even though they have tons of experience, just because they're a bit different than you. They use technology different than than you. They communicate different than you, but are they a bad salesperson? Probably not, right? So you need to take that into account. Another one is like you have the gender bias, you have the other bias that I see very often in sales, like very often, is the anchor bias, and I can give you a very specific example. In my other company, my CSO was telling me, you should hire this guy. He called me, he's a shark. And okay, so far so good, sounds good. I interviewed him, and the only thing he had was drive. He was not open to feedback. He was not organized. He would talk only about the product, not about the ICP. So basically, anchoring bias is you see something that you like, you anchor to it, and forget everything else. And many times it happens in sales, usually with louder people. You was like, this guy or this girl had so much energy. They're sharks. They're gonna go and get it. Yeah, if they also are organized, they understand their ICP, sure. If they don't, they just want to be toxic. So this is one example why sales hiring fails.
There's the anchoring bias of previous job experience as well, isn't there? Right? Like if you're one of these companies that's looking for more junior roles, but you're like, I need 2 years SDR experience. Well, maybe you look at those roles where there is serious hard graft, like one of the most common ones. We even spoken about this, where it was quite common for people to think of there's a stigma about being in recruitment, when actually the reality is, if you're a business developer in recruitment, it's a tough job, and it needs you to grind like crazy. If you see someone who's got a recruitment background and you're hiring them for an SDR role, junior one maybe,
oh my God, go for it.
Snap them up.
Yeah, right now, pay them well. Like seriously.
You've got an example of that, Mafalda, haven't you? About that?
Yeah. I saw, yes, but the best SDR I hired for my previous company, my HR team didn't want to even interview him for the first interview. I did that myself because he didn't have any SDR background in technology, was in recruitment, but he did 5 years recruitment in the same company. So I was like, not only this guy did recruitment, he did for 5 years in the same company. He must be good and have really a lot of resilience. Guess what? He was my top performer. He was booking meetings in his second week, and he told me that by comparison, that job was much easier. So he was highly motivated, because it's like, oh, this is easy compared. So this is something that people don't look for, which is transferable skills. Just because so many recruiters, they want to see the CV that fits perfectly the job description.
Yeah.
And that's, first of all, that's really hard to find. And second, even if you find it, doesn't mean it's good, right? So you can also check recruitment people who did professional sports, artists. Do you know how long it takes to play an instrument well? Hours and hours and hours. It's not any person who can play an instrument well. So there are a lot of personal skills that you can use, especially for junior positions.
Rachel's just put it, and that's amazing. Rachel's just said, I started in recruitment and now I'm a CRO.
Yes, go Rachel. There you go. Love that.
Exactly. That's amazing. It'd be really interesting, Rachel, to hear from you if that was some of the biases that you also had as well when you started your career as well. But yeah, that's super, super inspirational. Okay, let's just take a time out for a second, just to thank our sponsor today, Comsor. Comsor unlocks the power of your networks, enabling you to scale your business, amplify your resources, and increase your presence in ways that traditional marketing or advertising channels can't. So with Comsor, you can fill your pipeline with more warm intros, get more referrals from customers, multi-thread, and leverage your social proof. I'll put check them out at comsor.com, or I'll put a link in the chat, and you can check them out at the end of this LinkedIn Live. So we've spoken about the mistakes, but how can we improve? That's what everybody is here for today, to learn about. So let's get those tips to the group. So how to improve this process? Matthew, it'd be great if you could start with how you see we should be improving this process in hiring.
Yeah, I'm cheating a little bit here because I recently put a guide together with the company Bluebird Recruitment. They specialize in hiring these roles for SaaS organizations. So I was able to steal all their secrets plus put the guide together with some of my own. And I think it's so underrated to have a really strict interview process. And what I mean by that is set stages where we know what we're going to be doing in each step, what we're testing for, whether it's, are they a good fit to even continue the conversation? Okay, now we're testing for the skills in the role, and then testing for culture. And then it's making sure you've got the right tests in place, do a little cold call with them, and making sure you're asking the tough questions to make sure you're seeing if they're a good fit, but being strict with it.
Great. And Mafalda, what about you? How else do you see you can help improve this process?
So to summarize, I would really look for transferable skills, not necessarily the perfect profile, as long as they did something that have the similar skills. Make sure during the interview that you're not falling into your unconscious bias. Check on yourself all the time. Like Matt said, have a strict process, but also make sure that your case study or whatever you have to assess actually is the right one to assess what you want to know, right? So also check on your process. Does this actually, do I really get informed about these candidates? Is the right one or not for me after this case study? And I can give you an example, which is a bit counterintuitive to many people. So usually the recruitment process is first screening interview, maybe then interview with the manager, then case study, then culture fit. Depends a lot on each company, but this is the generic scenario. When I was head of business development, I gave the case study first. That was the first step of the interview. First, I would filter out that the candidates who actually didn't have that much interest in working with us, so they wouldn't waste my time. And then my interview with them, so on the second stage, I would give them feedback on their case study. So I would see how they react to it, which is extremely important in sales, being open to feedback. So the way I conducted my interview gave me the answers I wanted. Is this person open to feedback, for example? This is very important for me. This is how I assess it. Then the other thing that was important to me is, does this person not only is open for feedback, does he or she can apply feedbacks? So I give them a surprise task, which would be, redo the case study or the small details based on my feedback. I'll be back in 5 minutes. That would see how they react to pressure, which is super important as well. And if they not only open, but if they actually understood what I said and can apply, which is super important in sales. So for me, I designed a whole process that actually gave me the answers I needed to make sure this was the right candidate. And then proper onboarding. So you can hire the best person. If you provide a horrible onboarding, this person might fail, and you didn't make a bad hire, you made a bad onboarding. And that's a different topic, and those can be very easily mixed.
And we're going to be talking about onboarding next month on our
Yes,
how to make incredible onboarding programs. What was there? I think the other piece as well, which would be really interesting to hear from the audience as well, is if you're an SDR or an SDR manager, have you had that feedback session as well? Has somebody as that hiring manager or you as a hiring manager given that feedback for the candidates to try out and improve upon? Just a yes or no on that. That'd be really interesting to see if that's something that's happening a lot out there. So Matthew, you mentioned something about Bluebird as well, about the work that you did with them and making that guide. And there was something that you mentioned in there about the steps for the interview process. Maybe you talk a little bit more about that, about how many steps there should be in an interview process and what they should.
And me and Mafalda spoke about this before, and there's a few different ways you can do this, right? The sort of what we settled on with Bluebird is usually for SDR roles, is you probably need around 3 interview steps. The first one being the quickest, which is just they've applied for the role. Let's do an alignment chat. So you're asking questions to make sure they know what an SDR role is you're looking for curiosity, these sort of things, sort of the basic skills. Then it follows up with the second interview, which is way more intense, and you should probably prep them to let them know that this is going to be more of an intense interview. And that's going to be where you're going to get them to role play with a cold call. You're going to be asking them way more situational questions around how they handle certain situations if they have no experience, or how they handle specific situations, SDR related, if they've previously got SDR related roles. Because you want to be looking for two different things, right? Hiring an SDR from a large organization with a big brand aren't always the most well fitted to startups, depending on the skill sets. You've got to be testing for these little things. If you're a bigger organization, fantastic. You can probably hire from that same experience, but startup experience, you're always looking for something else. And then, if they pass through this stage with flying colors, you then want to do a final test, which is the cultural fit, which is hugely important whether you've got a big or a small team, because, the gelling of a team is a huge has a huge impact on the performance of the whole team, right? So now there's always going to be a bit of a mix if you're hiring different personalities, but you want to see if they sort of get along with each other. So yeah, then the culture fit is the third stage, and sometimes you'd have a bit of homework in between second interview and third interview.
That remind me, Matt, it's going back a bit to the mistakes I see, just because you mentioned startups. A mistake that I see very often is startups or medium small companies hiring AEs who are only big corporations like, I don't know, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, and thinking if they worked and they were amazing in these companies, they will be a game changer in my startup. And usually that's a huge mistake, because usually there are obviously exceptions, but I've seen many times AEs coming from big corporations struggling, because with the big corporation you have brand awareness, which makes a huge difference when you sell or when you prospect. You have the best tech stack, you have processes, you have rules, you know exactly what to do at all times. Startup, it's exactly the opposite. So it's just because someone is really good in one environment doesn't mean it's good in the other, and vice versa. You can be an amazing account executive or SDR in a startup and really struggle in a big corporation. So that's another mistake I see very, very often.
Yeah, following a process and creating a process are two entirely different things, and it's unfair to set that as an expectation with some of these people if you're pushing them the opposite direction.
Yeah, it starts back from the beginning, and that misalignment of those expectations, and it's not fair on anybody, the company or the employee. You want to try and make these people be successful, and yeah, it's very different to having a company that's got brand awareness, public, and then join a startup. It's a whole different world, and yeah, it's not fair on either party for them to be like that. So it's really good to see in the chat. We saw that Ben Ingram has been saying that with his organization, they do a live role play and they give feedback, then give them another go to see how they implement it. This is huge, and Luciano Juarez said the same thing as well. And it's so great to see that you as leaders are doing that, because you're really you're pressure testing the candidates. And then also, I've just seen Julia has just put something as well. Julia, lovely to see you. My non-negotiables for culture, team fit: someone who's open to fair wins and best practice.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Someone who asks for help and offers help. Someone who celebrates team success. And I have a very diverse team, but this is what we all share, and that's amazing.
Yeah, same. All the teams I had, they were very different people, but they always had that in common, and that's so much easier to manage the team like that. Like they don't need the manager to facilitate that. After a while, they just do it organically. So yes, absolutely.
I don't know if Luciana would be able to share, but I know Luciana was at HiBob previously, larger SDR function, and then moved on to Octopus. So I'm curious, smaller SDR function, has any of the criteria changed for you as you're hiring roles there? That'd be interesting to know.
Let's ask another question and see if she answers before we finish today. So let's So let's start bringing this home now. So let's talk about, for a leader, what is the one thing that they should take away from this, that they should be trying with their hiring process tomorrow? Mafalda, start with you.
I would say go back to your job requirements and to your process and look at it like with critical thinking and make sure that by the end it gives you the answers you need for your requirements. If the answer is you have to look at it.
Sorry, Matthew's chair is making a lot of noise. So
is it? Sorry.
It's all right. It wants to be part of the LinkedIn Live. It's all good.
That's all right.
So can you just say the last bit again, Mafalda, please? Just the last sentence.
If your hiring process doesn't give you the answers you need to make sure you make a good decision, you have to change it today.
Brilliant. And then Matthew and the chair, what would you add?
I'll hand this over to the chair to sign this off. Map that interview process out, right? You're going to be having conversations with sometimes tens, hopefully not hundreds of people, but with the way people are applying at the moment, that's the case. So map out your full interview structure, the number of interviews, the questions you need answer to, and turn it into a bit of a framework, right? Because you need to compare between all of these candidates who's going to be best fitted for exactly what Mafalda said, right? So properly structure the whole thing. And then stick to the structure.
And it helps you when you make good hires. You can go back and think, what did I do right about this hiring that went so well, and try to replicate the formula.
That's great. And then also I think what Lewis just commented on as well about, the difference. So in terms of what was needed for each company, and that ties in really well to what Mafalda said, that you need to be you can't just have a generic job description. You see, it's different space, but when you see that AI engineers need 12 plus years of AI engineering experience, and it's only been around for 5, and it's crazy. And it's like, we need to be more specific to people if we want to get the best candidates that we need.
And also careful with the language, because there are even studies, for example, if you have way too many requirements, a lot of women won't apply, because there is these studies where women apply when they fill out 90% of the requirements and men only 50. I'm just putting numbers out there, but it's something like that.
No, but it's a huge point, right?
It's like when you say
if I read 5 years experience, I go 3's enough.
Yeah. Me too, because I have kind of a male mentality. So I was like, I don't have any. I'm just going to apply. It's their job to reject me, not mine. But
Dave sees 5 years and he goes, 1 year's enough. 1 year's enough.
Yeah, I'll round it up to the nearest.
Joking.
Round up to
but also see the way you describe, like you say, we want sharks or rock stars and stuff, and careful, because you see the type of language, what kind of profile do you attract, and double check if that's the one you want to attract.
What about hiring for family?
Hiring for family?
Yeah,
companies are like, come and join our family.
No.
That's going to be another. No.
Hey, cool. That's in 2 months.
Yeah. So thank you ever so much, everybody, for your time today. It was a great conversation. Thank you so much to those of you that have took part in the comments as well. And it was really great to see some of those pieces that us as leaders are doing. Next month, we're going to be back with onboarding, how to create an incredible onboarding experience for your team. We will be announcing the date of that soon. But for now, thank you ever so much, and have a great rest of the evening. Bye.
Hang on, where's the...